grandma shot herself at a pretty young age, and when she did, my great grandpa just bought a marital plot because they were childhood sweethearts, so they had literally been together the majority of their lives. And honestly, they had a miserable, terrible marriage, and he did not plan on repeating that with somebody else. He figured inevitably one day he would die, they'd throw him in the same hole as her, and he would get to spend the rest of eternity in hell with his one true love. However, that all changed like a week or two after she blew her brains out in front of him, and her best friend showed up banging on the door looking for her. Now, like I said, they were childhood sweethearts, so they grew up together. My great grandparents were Eva and CR, and then my grandma's best friend, her name was Flo, and she lived next door to her. And they were all really good friends. They were very close all throughout their childhood and their teenage years. They were like a trio until they turned 18 and my great grandparents got married and my great grandpa joined the military. And so they started traveling for his job, but they kept in close communication. They were on the phone, they were writing letters. They would regularly go back and visit Flo until my great grandpa got stationed out of the country. And while they were stationed out of the country, Flo stopped communicating back with them. But when they got back to the United States, they went back to their hometown to look for Flo, and her family told them that she had gotten married and cut off contact with them and stopped talking to them altogether. So my great grandparents just went back home to California, and we all know what happened there. And like I said, a week or two later, there's Flo banging on the door looking for Eva. And when CR lets her in, he discovers she's covered in bruises and has a small child. And she explains to him that she married an abusive man who had been keeping her hostage for years, and she finally escaped. So he took her in, helped her get a divorce, and then ended up marrying her and helping her raise her daughter. And they stayed married for over 40 years until I was a teenager and Flo passed away. And all of this cemetery drama started in my family because we only owned the marital plot. We did not own the plots around that plot whatsoever. And so the plot right next to CR was owned by somebody else. Nobody was buried in it, but they refused to sell it to us. And so the only free plot anywhere near the marital plot was the one directly next to Eva. And my mom was like, it's fine. I have a solution for this. I own a family plot because when my grandma killed herself, my grandma was Eva and CR's daughter, and she killed herself like a decade after Eva did. And my grandpa bought an entire family plot for that, and then nobody else was ever buried in it because my grandpa got killed and my mom had him cremated, and then her brother was going to get the death penalty, and so she was going to put him in there, but then that got taken off the table, and he ended up getting released from prison, so now his body's his wife's problem. Anyways, so my grandma's in there all alone, so my mom's like, why don't we just put Eva with her daughter, and then Flo can have Eva's part of the marital plot. And Flo's daughter was like, absolutely not. You're not giving my mom a second-hand plot. And so my great-grandpa CR was like, no, I know exactly what Eva would have wanted. And so he took over, and now CR is on the far right, and then Eva's in the middle, and then her best friend who married her husband is on her other side, and they all have matching gravestones.